Welcome to the podcast, Nitin.
Thank you, Bipin. Always a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. We've been trying to do this for a while, and finally we've got an opportune time. Uh, First of all, congratulations on this very long and illustrious 27 years journey with Bloomberg.
Thank you.
Tell us, how are you feeling? I mean, how does one feel after working in an organization like Bloomberg for 27 years?
It's a very interesting question you ask because I always get asked this question, why and how I end up staying in an organization for 27 years. To be honest, when I look back, I never felt that I've spent 27 years. It may sound cliche, but the reality is the structure of the company was such that it always encouraged my kind of thinking, where you're able to come up with ideas. They allowed you to experiment with those ideas, and more importantly, they allowed you to execute on those ideas. So every 3 to 4 years, I have done different projects and different initiatives and managed different businesses for them. So it never felt that I was actually doing some same thing for 27 years because I was doing different things. So it felt like a new company to me all the time. Most of the time, people actually leave the organization to go to any other organization because they want to do something different.
Sure.
Is one of the key factors. Bloomberg allowed me to do that. And that was one of the reasons why I ended up staying in Bloomberg for 27 years. And I have to say, it was an incredible journey.
Sure. I was reading earlier that you work now, at least in the last 4-5 years, you work directly with Mike Bloomberg. How's he to work with?
Uh, he is an inspirational leader. Okay. And the way he could see the future is amazing. The way he could articulate things without keeping any filter is amazing. And more importantly, the ideas he believed in, he backs that. Okay. So that is something which I found it very inspirational because in many cases, what I've realized is most of the leaders want to be influential, but they don't want to invest. They don't want to invest in future. They don't want to think long term and back those ideas. Mike believes and backs. That's something I found it incredibly amazing about him. And I've worked with so many different leaders, both on the political side and on the business side. And I have to say that one thing which stand out about him is his belief in backing those beliefs and going all the way to make sure that it actually create an impact.
Is this one of the consistent attributes which you see in highly successful leaders or politicians or ministers you've met?
Yeah, see, I have met a lot of head of states and ministers and business leaders. Now that you are asking me, so if I'm trying to extrapolate, trying to find a common thread among all. So the most impressive thing with most of the leaders, so let's talk about, the most impressive things, is one is that the passion, okay? And they are there for a reason. And those leaders have kind of stand out. And a common thread, the way I look at it, is the most successful leaders has been, I attribute this thing called ICE and the art of leadership.
Okay.
The way I describe the ICE and the art of leadership is every great leader has a vision which inspires people. The I in that is the inspiration part. So they're able to inspire the people with their vision and the problem they want to solve. And the second step in C is a lot of people have vision, a lot of people have ideas, okay? But not everybody is able to do focus on the C, which is the communication part. Your ability to clearly articulate your ideas, which can inspire people, is not everybody's cup of tea. Very few people are able to do that. And the most important element of that, a lot of people have ideas, some of them have the ability to communicate, but the critical factor which determines the success of a leader is the E, execution. That is where most of the leaders, especially on the political side, failed because they are able to come up with slogans, they are able to communicate, but fail in terms of execution. If the common thread, the most successful leaders, both on the business side and on the political side, are the people who are able to get all three right. So I call that, my theory is that ICE and the art of leadership.
I mean, if just out of curiosity, if you had to give proportions to the ICE, right? Inspiration, communication, and execution. if you have to give proportion. And the reason why I am asking, let me clarify this, is because I have come across a lot of founders who are excellent executors. They are decent at inspiring and very okayish at communication, right? But excellent at execution, or vice versa. And they're fairly successful. I won't say that. I mean, they've like just broken the mold and gone above the roof. If you have to give a proportion to it, apart from the perfect proportion, what would be that?
When I started, to be honest, I thought the I was the most important one. The ideas were the most important one. The more I got involved in terms of, taking up complex projects, then I realized the E is the most important for the execution one. Okay. And to your point of, why some people are great executors still are not able to meet what they want to. See, success has a lot of factors carrying in. There's I call it, there's a luck quotient. There is a, luck is a very important factor.
Absolutely.
The timing is a very important factor, your hard work, timing and all that. So, but I feel that execution to me is the most important one. And that's where most of the people fail.
Oh, let's expand a bit more on this, because I feel it's a very important thread. I'll take my example. So, and this is something which I'm working on.
Yeah.
So, rather than, if let's say, for example, there's a task at hand, if I have to explain it to my team twice or thrice on how to do it, I would rather do it myself. Make it quick. Now, the problem is this is not scalable, right? You can do it with a smaller team when you're just starting up, right? But as you grow further, you want your team to be empowered enough to understand and get it done by themselves. That's where the communication part comes in.
Yes.
Right? I mean, let's leave the idea part completely away right now. So I feel the more I introspect in my journey, at least, I feel a lot of this is intertwined. Of course, right? Be it communication and execution, idea and execution, idea and communication when you're pitching to the investors.
Yes.
It's
That's
intertwined.
a very good point you raised, actually.
Right? I think it's very intertwined. I mean, although your proportions might vary depending on
Situation.
stage also, right? The situation
is very important.
Yeah. At what stage you are you like just starting up, or you're in the a growth journey? I think it's different with the, when it comes to politics. I think it's very different. But at least from the business side, it depends on the
And the kind of business. But one thing, let me, add to that point you raised is about the teams you talk about. The scale, the challenge of really communicating and getting things done. In many cases, what I feel is, the way we are actually building the teams. Okay. In many cases, the way we end up hiring people, becomes a challenge. I'm speaking from my own perspective. Okay. It could be different, it could be wrong, but I'm just sharing my perspective.
Sure.
If you have people who share the same passion, okay, I think things fly. In many cases, when we hire people, we have a very templated way of actually hiring people. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I used to do interviews, I never used to spend more than 10 minutes in the interview process, because it takes exactly 5 or 10 minutes to figure out whether the person is actually can make the cut or no. But we go through like 1 hour. It's like the investor's pitch. Everybody knows what is there in the deck. Okay. Everybody has prepared for the answers. Everybody knows what questions get asked. So people who are coming to ask for the interviews, there itself, they know what questions they are going to ask. Okay. So my philosophy, I think they're deviating a bit and going into the hiring of people, because I feel strongly about that.
It's very important.
I call that, the issue is, we call it as an interview. Okay. I'm inviting you for an interview for the job. What is the definition of interview? Interview is where I ask, you answer.
Correct.
Okay. Where does that happen? It happens when you do get an interrogation.
Yeah. It's very close to interrogation.
Yes. So I know the answer which I want from you. In interrogation, I know what answer I want from you. I ask questions according to that. And you also know what you want from me. You also play that game. Okay. So everybody's playing the game over there. So why do we call it an interview? Why it has to be a one-way process? Why can't we say that I'm inviting you for a discussion for this role and job? Because you also want to know where you are going to come and work, why it should be only one way.
Correct.
But we never call it a discussion. We call it, or a conversation, we call it an interview. And what happens over there? People prepare for the answers.
Yeah.
They know what questions. That's why if you see, people say ChatGPT is the in thing, but the reality is even before ChatGPT came, pretty much all the CVs look same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's why blame ChatGPT now?
Yeah.
So the way I used to approach was, instead of asking people the questions, I used to flip. I said, you are also taking a risk of coming and working in my organization. Why don't you take my interview? Nobody's prepared. Very few people have actually prepared for that. They just know the answers. And then when I push them, what comes out is something which they feel passionate about, something, a worry or a thought which is there top of their mind. If somebody keeps saying money is important, keep talking about money, maybe money is the motivation.
Yeah.
But at least I know, then I can decide whether I want that person or no. Nothing wrong about that. So when people ask questions in that vulnerable situation when they're not prepared, what comes out is the most genuine thing which they worry about. Then I used to basically say whether those worries, those questions are genuine, something which he should be worried about or not. That is my approach of how to hire people.
Sure. I mean, just to clarify it for the audience, I think we are talking about almost final stages of interview over here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because by then you have all the clarity that, hey, listen, the HR interviews are done, the skills are matched already. Now it's about taking the final call, and that is the interview which you're talking about, right?
I always believe that why can't we actually look the entire process? Okay, come to think of it, people have aspiration when they apply for the role.
Yeah.
Okay, and people don't come back to tell whether you have made the cut or no.
Yeah.
And people don't respond to that. I would rather have, what you're talking is absolutely right, that the final stages. But my point is that why can't we actually do it across the spectrum and we look at how we hire?
It's long due. I completely agree, Nitin. It's long due. It has gotten really stale. The way the processes are, I 100% agree to that. Okay, while we are talking about the interviews and hiring, let's do a brief recap of your own journey, right? You spoke about the luck quotient, right? So let's keep that luck quotient at the center of things and talk about how you have reached where you have reached today, right? So let's look at your journey. What were the pivotal moments which made you reach over here?
Okay. One thing which I have actually learned, the phrase I use now a lot, because I didn't know, is always show up.
Perfect.
Okay. Always showing up, and one day it will happen. Okay. So I never knew how to phrase that, but now I learned. So every time I was very enthusiastic guy. You tell me something, I will actually be ready to do that.
You're still, but
Yes. So today you ask me, Nitin, let's go and do something. I'll be happy to, even though it's completely irrelevant or not related to me, I'll do that. That's me. Okay. So one day things happen. So I think I have to say that luck has played a very important part in my journey. I will not take away that. Okay. Why I say that?
Sorry, please correct. Is this a realization which you've had recently?
No.
Or it's been with you for a while?
I was always humble about that fact.
Okay.
Okay. I was always humble about the fact that my way of thinking was very different. Okay. What I needed was the right leader and a right organization which allowed me to express my madness, to get things done. Okay. And that's why I say luck, because I met those kind of right leaders and organizations which allowed me to express who I am. Okay. That's why I call luck. If they have not given me that opportunity, if they have not met, I don't think I've been sitting here today.
And you're not just saying this because you're being nice and
No. I genuinely
really believe it.
I'm very humble about it, sir. Because we cannot discount that fact. And I have a reason why I'm actually, sharing that. And just please remind, in case if I forget, I have it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what my wife says. I tend to forget things. So, my first job, I was just waiting like everybody. I come from, at that time, a small town called Hyderabad. Now it is, as we know, is the fastest growing tech hub in the world, small town. And everybody in Hyderabad had to go to US. I was no different. So it was summer holidays. I was just preparing for my journey to go to US to do my, further studies. And somebody called me because I did a stock event and somebody saw, they said, we are doing some research job. Would you like to come? It was summertime. I told my brother, I had an accident at that time, so I couldn't drive. So I told my brother. So he said, let's go. I said, what do we stand to lose? We went there. I saw it's a very nice building, summertime. So at least, it's a no, that time we used to have a lot of power cuts. And all that.
At least you're like, it's cool. It's cool.
Absolutely right about that. So let's do that. So I never did research in my life. I had no idea. I used to play in the stock market, but I had no idea. Nobody in my family could believe that, what are you doing? It was. So by just luck, I went there. The guy who was offered the job, he declined because he wanted 300 rupees more than what they were ready to offer. And I said, I'm fine. And there I met my boss, my first boss, and he was like really invested in me. No madness. So we used to spend a lot of time going through crazy ideas, and that helped me to get into my next job. And that's how I moved to Bombay. And so that's where I call it luck, this thing. It was not planned that I wanted to be.
Correct.
It just summer, the guy saw me somewhere. I kept showing up and it came. And same thing happened was how I got into Bloomberg is also luck. Okay. So in between for a year, I did journalism. Okay. And so I was helping one girl who had to write this column called How I Made My First Million.
Okay.
So there was a recruitment company guy who, when I was out of job, he couldn't help me to find a job. Despite my not trying at that time because I was in the market were very bad. But still I took this girl to meet them, said, these guys have, well, why don't you write an article? And she actually wrote, and they got very good visibility. And these guys also came from a very humble background. And they were very happy that I helped them despite, they're not helping me. Again, the question just showing up. And one day they said, we got a mandate to hire for this company called Bloomberg.
Okay.
Can you please go for the interview? I said, I was doing very well. I'm not. He said, at least for me, please go for the interview. I just went for the interview for that. And I got the job. And there again, I met a very inspirational leader, Gerard Francis. And he actually, I know I was crazy guy. He also knew I was a crazy guy, but he believed in me. And he gave me a good runway to, flourish.
Define this craziness for a bit, right? I mean, give us an example because it can be interpreted in very different ways, right? So give us an example of craziness.
The way I describe crazy is the way you're able to connect the dots. Nobody is able to see the dots and also connect it. Okay. That is what I call craziness, because all of us can see certain dots. And cannot see the other dots that can be matched.
Cannot make a picture out of it.
Yes. So for me, the craziness is you give me like two abstract things, I can connect the dots in some way or the other. So everybody has certain talent and certain weaknesses. I had quite a lot of weaknesses, and one of my strength was ability to connect the dots, which I could see not many people actually believe. So that's why I needed somebody who could believe that I could see the dots and back me for that. Okay. And same thing happened when I went into my new role when I was working with Mike Bloomberg. So there's a guy called Kevin Seekey. So he in New York, so he's worked very closely with Mike Bloomberg, did the same thing. Completely backed. He said, Lou, come up with crazy ideas, I back you.
Nice.
And a lot of things I did, I could never imagine why I decided to do it, but he allowed me to do that. So the connecting the dots is what I call craziness.
Very nice. This is a good example. It's a very good example. I mean, for me, it's been it's a recent discovery on how luck has played a role in our journeys. I mean, it's been a year and a half when I've started doing that introspection kind of a thing. And I've started realizing that every failure which I've had was actually the luck playing out for me to be where I am right now. I mean, just to give an example, if I had not failed in my technical diplomas, I probably would have been a software engineer, mm, working my ass off coding someplace else. And it's a good job, but I am 100% sure I wouldn't have been happy. So only because I could not excel in that, I had to look at avenues apart from it. And then the spiral continues. Very, very good one on the luck
If
quotient.
I can actually add to that, Vin, I think this has to be highlighted. Okay, and the reason why I say, because when people have failures, they take it to heart. Okay, I always tell them that everything happened for a reason, and when you look back, the reason is always good. Okay, I was doing very well as an analyst. One fine day in the morning, I thought I arrived in life. One fine day, because markets were so bad in the morning, they said, "You're out." I could not believe that, I'm out of a job. At that time, I said, my God, why me and all those things. But when I look back, because I was out of that job is the reason why I'm sitting here. I'm so happy.
Yes.
That time I could not figure out. So that's why every time I tell to people, when you have failures, take it in your stride. Something better is actually waiting for you.
True. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Let's move to the economies, right? Let's start with Indonesia. I'm very well aware that it's very close to you, and you've done a lot of work as well over here. Uh, but talk to us. Where are we headed from an economy perspective when we're talking about Indonesia?
Where it should go is what I will talk.
Okay.
Okay. Connecting the dots.
Sure.
I'm actually using that.
Yeah.
And I think, what the world requires? The leadership. Okay. And the size is the biggest, strength when you want to become a leader. Okay. Which Indonesia has, given it, for demographic, natural resources, and all that. Okay. And given the size. So should Indonesia step up to be the lead face for ASEAN economy? Because you need an anchor economy.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
that. And from there, exert the whole benefit to the other region. And that's where I feel Indonesia has an, benefit. Indonesia should not see itself as, okay, I'm growing at 8%. I want to go what the president wants to, achieve. I will actually go saying that how can I be the leader, the anchor for the region? Okay. We need that. Otherwise, given the geopolitical, you always drift if you don't have those anchors.
Sure.
Today, if you see, you have so many, geopolitical situations. Everybody's drifting everywhere.
Yep.
What we don't have is an anchor. Okay, there are two anchors. China and US are fighting. Everybody's drifting. So it will continue to happen in a different format. Can Indonesia step up to be the anchor for the region? I think they should. They have everything what they need. They have the demography. They have the natural resources with them. It's just making it happen is more important.
Sure. So you've been working closely with a lot of collaborations which are happening between India and Indonesia as well. Talk to us about that as well, right? I mean, where do you think uh, further deeper collaborations can happen, which can be mutually benefiting to both the economies?
Yeah. See, one of the projects we did recently, and I have to give the credit to our good friend and also ambassador to Indonesia, Indian ambassador to Indonesia, Sandeep Chakravarti. I think he played a very instrumental role, and we have been together on those initiatives where he pushed that how can we actually, make partnerships happen. And when President was in India recently, so for the first time, we managed to take a delegation of capital market with the president to India. Okay? And the goal is we realize that in terms of the partnership, the national partnership is between India and Indonesia. From the size perspective, from the cultural context perspective, and from the opportunity perspective. Okay. they can complement each other well. Because if Indonesia has to, take inspiration, India is a very good country to look at because the challenges and the problems are similar. The cultural context is similar. So the way they solve the problem is something which Indonesia can easily relate to and can easily execute on that. Compared to a very developed economy where the contexts are very different, it is very difficult to basically do that. So that's where I thought it is always good that these two countries can actually collaborate, not compete with each other, and complement is what I call. So we thought, why don't we actually look at developing the capital market? Okay. Why developing the capital market was the essence, something closer to your heart, because I know you do a lot of work on the startup. You yourself is a startup entrepreneur. And one of the discussions we had with the CEOs while in Delhi from the Indonesia, one of the factors one of the CEOs raised was why there is no innovation happening in Indonesia.
Correct.
Okay. My pitch to them was one of the reasons why they are not able to attract the VC money is because there is no exit.
Yeah.
VCs care about exits, and exit is all about capital market. So unless and until we develop the capital market, it is very difficult for us to attract that.
100%.
So that is why I said everybody in the room is not related to capital market, but if you want the growth, you need to develop the capital market. And I have to say the IDX was very forthcoming, and the Fund Managers Association was very forthcoming in Indonesia. And so a lot of other stakeholders, Kadim was very forthcoming on that. So we managed to get buy-in from India, from Kadim, Fund Managers Association, and I said IDX. And so what we did was, why can't we actually look at what has been India's journey in terms of developing their asset management industry? India asset management industry in last 10 years have grown to almost $900 billion from 150.
Correct.
Indonesia kind of remained at 150 level. So the thing what we wanted to explore how we could actually take some learnings and replicate here. And that was the collaboration we started working on. And I always believe in not starting. I believe in my execution part is where we are very clear. All the stakeholders were very clear that we want to focus on making things happen executable. It cannot be like one MOU gets signed. Yeah, people clap, people move. No.
Good photos.
Good photo. So they're enough and nobody remembers and people move on. So we are at the execution phase of figuring out how we can develop the capital market, starting with the asset management industry.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's talk about the other project, which I would rather say the mountain which you're trying to climb now. The book which you're writing, The Silver Elephant. We spoke briefly last time when we were having lunch together, and it got me very intrigued. So tell us. I think you are now in a state of mind where you want to talk openly about it. So give us what is this all about? What is the silver elephant all about?
Silver elephant. Okay. So the long mountain I'm trying to climb, as you said, is I'm trying to build the 8th continent.
Sorry?
I'm trying to build the 8th continent.
Okay.
Okay. What is the 8th continent? And then I'll come to the silver elephant. The 8th continent is there are 1 billion people in the world with the age of 50 plus. Their combined economic value is 17 trillion. One of the research in 2021 put that number as 17 trillion. A billion people with 17 trillion could be continent on its own.
Absolutely.
Okay. I call that the 8th continent.
Okay.
And everyone who is born will end up in the 8th continent. Okay. The natives of 8th continent, I call them Gen E. Generation E. Generation E is the one which is experienced, which is empowered, which is well experienced. And this is the fastest growing demographic in the world is the Gen E. The difference between Gen X, Gen Y, how we define, and Gen E is in all past, we define Gen based on the year or the decade you were born. But Gen E is the decade in which you're going to live. Okay, it's a completely contrast. We're trying to change the paradigm. Okay. And nobody has any idea how the economy of this 8 continent is going to look at. Nobody's focusing on that. We call that the longevity economy. My goal is to create the framework and the infrastructure of the 8 continent where the Gen E can thrive.
Okay.
Today, Gen E is seen as a liability. Everybody says after 50, you are a liability. When you see problem as a liability, your solutions are also going to be like a handouts.
Yeah.
What if we turn around and say, aging is not a liability to be managed, but aging is an asset to be capitalized? Then suddenly I see myself as an asset, not a liability. My whole perception about life change. So the natives of 8 continent, we call it Gen E, we want to convert them from a liability, a challenge, to an asset, which can be capitalized as an opportunity. And that will emerge as the biggest economic opportunity of our time.
Okay.
Because not only the demographics are big, but the wealth and the time they have is one of the highest in the world. Compelling story? Agree?
Yes, just one question on this one. But I understand that you've generalized a billion people over here. You can't have a common infrastructure. You're talking about a common infrastructure because a lot of diversity.
See, framework.
Okay.
We don't know what, see, when we talk about Indonesia, you have like same thing, like, diverse set of people.
Correct.
But what is the common factor which you actually need to have? Okay. What does that infrastructure looks like? Physical, digital, social, economical, and all that. Okay. So nobody's actually thinking about that. We need to start thinking how the infrastructure of that future actually looks like. Are all stakeholders aware of it? The answer is no. Okay. Subconsciously we may, but the reality is nobody knows. And I was talking to a CEO of a very large hotel chain, and he asked me, what makes you think that we are not thinking about it? And I said, my mom, do you think can take out the quilt the way you tuck in the bag? You think my mom can pick up the luggage at 70 or plus years and put it in the luggage rack? When she goes to the bathroom, take shower, can she read which one is shampoo and soap? She can't really. So what are you telling that you are actually ready for that? Nobody's ready for it. We know there's a problem, but nobody wants to acknowledge.
Okay. Oh, sorry. By the way, this quilt thing really need to be sorted. You could forget about the elderly for a moment. Even I
struggle. Even I struggle.
There's
no idea.
tightly.
I have no idea why that is there. So we know there is a problem, but we are not acknowledging an answer. So elephant in the room is something, a problem exists, but we don't want to acknowledge.
Oh, hence the silver elephant.
Then there is a concept called the black elephant.
Okay.
Okay. Black swan event.
Yeah.
Black swan is a unknown event happening. The results of it is extremely catastrophic. Okay. Unknown event happening. A black elephant is a known problem which we don't want to acknowledge, but the occurrence of it is as catastrophic as a black swan event. So there's a concept called black swan, the black elephant. So I converted that black into silver. Because the problem is silver.
Yeah.
So we all know that the world is aging. We all know it's a challenge, but nobody wants to talk, nobody wants to address. If you look at last few crises which happened, the biggest impact has been on the aging population.
Yes.
The way, just take the market, the way it has, created volatility. People have planned their savings for 70, 80, everything gone haywire at that phase of life, but nobody stepped up to really talk.
True.
Guys, what is happening to them? How can we support? So nobody is addressing that. It's a challenge. So that's why I call it a silver elephant. A silver elephant is the elephant in the room, which we all know exists, but we are ignoring, but we also know of not addressing that. The impact is much severe, could be as severe or bigger than what climate issue. Because you can feel it, I can feel it, he can feel it. Everybody on this earth, 8 billion people can feel it at a personal level. We need to address that.
True.
That is what Silver Elephant is all about, creating that 8 continent framework.
And unfortunately, Nitin, I mean, first of all, and this is mind blowing.
Thank you.
The insights which you're talking about, and I'm 100% sure that we'll have a lot more detailed content available in the form of the book once it is out. Uh, the point which I want to make is that although you're talking about 50, what I'm observing in the market that it is shrinking further in terms of age. For me, it's 45 already now. Because the number of folks whom I'm speaking to, unfortunately, I'm speaking to mostly white-collared corporation folks. And the folks who are like in their early 40s or mid 40s, they're finding it extremely difficult to get their next gigs. Extremely difficult. A lot of them are starting their own businesses, but it is not out of passion.
But out of compulsion.
Yeah, out of compulsion because you don't have any other opportunity available in the market. Right? So it's going to be a very massive uh, population gradually, which is sitting with this kind of expertise, experience, uh, philosophical uptick uh, in life, but without much opportunities.
So if I can frame that for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is how I frame how I'm going to solve this. So if you look at the lifespan, okay, let's say a country has a lifespan of 85 years. Okay, it's a kind of, I'm not going to take a name, but let's say average 85 years is a lifespan. Okay. Everybody today, the research is taking place to help people expand their lifespan. Okay. Now, on top of it, sit health span. The number of years you are healthy. For this country, it's 70 years. So that means last 15 years, you will be in a state of bad health, some health issue or the other. If you feel that is bad, the wealth span, the number of years you are covered for wealth is only say 62 years. Because in the rich countries also you have to understand, people are asset rich, cash poor.
Yeah.
If my asset is house because of which I'm rich and I have only one house, it's actually of no use. So my is 62 years. The thing which you talked about, the term which I have actually, come up with is called the wellness span. Wellness is essentially the purpose you have in life. We all know what to do till the age of 50. And we know, start going to school, 20, get your degree, get married by 30, have kids, and all those things we know. But we have no idea after 50. Society doesn't know what to do with you after 50. Your company doesn't know what to do. Your family doesn't know. You yourself doesn't know what to do after 50. So the wellness span ends at 50. So if you visualize, it's actually a triangle.
Yeah.
85, 70, 60, and 50. It's a triangle. I call this longevity economy triangle paradox. This is the situation we are in. If we continue to be like this, and if the whole world population is going to be part of this, it is going to be one of the most unstable situations we will be in.
True.
So my goal is to convert the triangle into a square where your lifespan, health, wealth, and wellness are all aligned. Okay? We need to do that. If we don't do that, you may have health, wealth, even if you don't have the purpose, you struggle. Missing one is not an option. You have to have all four. But nobody is paying attention to your point, the most important one at the top.
Yeah.
If I can add one, Bipin, a point is, if you see, we prepare people for so many, women in the organizations. We prepare for D&I, how to, deal with diversities and all that. But we never prepare. I've never seen anybody doing sessions for how do you prepare your life after you retire.
Correct.
So that start at 45 so that you give people enough time to figure out.
I mean, the only ones who prepare for life after retirement are the fund managers who want to take your money and invest there somewhere. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. And I keep reading a lot of articles and blogs about how this is the next big opportunity. But out there also, the emphasis is majorly on elderly care. Hey, listen, this is the next biggest opportunities because population shrinking, people are having just one kid, the kids are going to be away, and how do the folks manage themselves. So there's elderly care thingy, which keeps popping up. But no one's talking about the whole spectrum, right? I mean, let's say, for example, if someone is healthy till the age of 70, what he or she is supposed to do with all the time they have in hand?
Yes.
Right? How can they contribute? Are there avenues available for them? Right? I mean, can you be a teacher, or can you be a mentor to someone, a monetized mentor, of course, right? There isn't much available.
See, you're absolutely right. Vipin, you got the whole thing very correct, very well articulated, I have to say. The issue is people are doing in bits and pieces.
Yes.
You see, I go back to my basic premises of the 8 continent silver entrepreneurship, a silver elephant is we consider aging as a liability.
Yes.
That is why elderly care, caregiving, aging. So we are essentially seeing you as a problem.
It's a handout.
It's a handout because you see as a liability. But if everybody in every country, like 60% of the world population is going to be this, why can't we flip it and consider them as an asset? Figure out how we can actually capitalize on that. One of the initiatives which I'm working as part of this is called the silver entrepreneurship. Okay. What is silver entrepreneurship? When you are in your 50s, 60s, now you have time, you have health because you're going to live longer, you have connections. I'm talking about certain set. I'm not talking about across the board.
Of course.
You have wealth, you have risk-taking capacity, you have a reputation to protect, you have wisdom. Everything you need in an entrepreneur is there. But you'll never see somebody actually funding
Yeah.
a 50-year or a 60-year, but you are ready to fund a 20-year-old. People above 50, 60 with this attribute themselves doesn't consider themselves as an entrepreneur because we have written them off.
Yeah, it's a social norm. I mean, it's been imposed on you so heavily that you started to believe in that.
Yes. So now this whole concept of silver entrepreneurship is anybody who is able, either you are from that cohort or you're solving the problem for that cohort. Okay. And there are so many problems which need to be sorted out. And one of the favorite examples I gave, if you look at the amount of money which has been invested in fintech, in billions and billions of dollars, my mother still struggle to do KYC. She cannot find out where is the PNR number to go and make a change to the booking. She has time to experiment and play with that. She has money to play, but nobody is actually targeting her. Nobody's targeting her. So that is what I feel is that there is such a big opportunity to build solutions for them. If you look at e-commerce, my kids will change platforms on which they shop. Okay, wherever they get a good deal or wherever the new thing they do. But my generation and my mother, if they fix on one, they stay with that.
Got it.
But go and look at any those big platforms. It is so cumbersome for them to navigate at that age.
Correct.
They are not thinking that this is my biggest.
Correct.
This could be, if not, but can I do something?
And I honestly think it's not only about your parents or my parents' generation.
Yes.
It's just that after a certain age, you like consistency. Just to give an example, my father, he had the same barber until the barber passed away. All his life, which was only like some 3 years back. Only then he's moved to a new guy to get his haircut done.
Yeah.
Right? And I personally feel it is not only because he comes from a certain generation. I feel after you're like 40, 50, you want to have consistency, reliability. So absolutely to your point, I mean, they are probably one of the most loyal set of customers one can get. If you've acquired them once and you've given them a good service, not very demanding as well, by the way. If you've given them a decent service, you have a customer for life.
Yes. And people talk about AI. AI, I believe, I'm a big believer of AI. And the reality is, if you are able to give this generation a personal support.
Yes, hand-holded one.
People are ready to pay for.
Yeah.
I see everybody is actually moving, but the reality is, at that generation, if my mother comes and say, listen, I have this service which actually requires this amount of money, but they're going to give. I'm going to say yes, because I know that is what they need. But that is the whole problem, is we are not seeing them. We are just discarded that it's a liability. It's such a big economic opportunity.
True.
How to be capitalized.
True.
And how and why is what I'm trying to work.
So, if I may, is this the problem which all age tech is trying to solve?
Yeah. So it's called AgeTech Leadership Labs. That's the platform I've created. The goal is to build an institution which looks at this problem holistically and bring all the stakeholders together, because everybody is working in isolation.
Yeah.
And bring them together to build that economic framework which is required to support that population. Because it is not about that. It is also about people your 40s and 30s and 40s will also end. We need to be ready for that.
Correct.
We learned through climate, we could not solve the climate crisis after so much of commitments and all that, because our approach was wrong. We cannot afford to have a same failure with this Gen E.
Sure. You plan to start it with a specific.
So it's of course, it's going to be it's a global problem, but you don't want to boil the entire ocean.
Correct.
You start focusing on Asia, then build out. And also the thing which Asian leaders don't understand and underestimate, where they have the leadership opportunity, 60% of the world 50 plus population will be here. You will be the owner of one of the largest, most influential and economically strong demographic growth.
True.
Do you want to be led Asia or you want to lead? And I want them to lead. And that is why I want to build AgeTech Leadership Labs as the first Asia Institute of Global Repute, which is going to work on a global issue and to provide that leadership.
Excellent. We are moving towards the end of this conversation. You are someone who's very well read and very interested in philosophy, right? So I want to have this last segment on philosophy, right? Philosophy is something which is an acquired taste for me, and it's only been last 2.5-3 years since which I've gotten very deep into reading and understanding different philosophies, be it Western philosophies or Indian philosophies or even Chinese philosophy, right? So let's get in. Let's our viewers have an idea of, if they are inclined towards philosophy, where should they start?
So when did you? So did you recently cross 40?
I'll turn 40 this year.
Okay. So how did I guess?
Because of my interest in philosophy.
So the book actually I wanted to write before writing Silver Elephant. It's called Selfie at 40, Light Camera Action.
Okay.
That is still work in progress. Hopefully one day I will actually get a time to finish that book. Selfie at 40, essentially, selfie is transport is that the happiness resides in you. Okay, you look outside. Selfie is because when you click your own photo, there is no other interpretation of anyone.
Correct.
Okay, if I take your photo, it is my interpretation. You may feel unhappy about. So selfie is a reflection that happiness resides in you. Okay. Light camera action is that if you take your life into decades, the first decade is about fascination. Okay, we know that kids are fascinated with everything they do. The second decade comes, fascination goes, I don't care about getting fast. I want to learn, pass the exam. It's all about education. So then you come to the third decade. You don't care about education or fascination. You focus only about your ambition.
Yep.
Job, money. Okay. And then you comes to your third decade. Okay. So there, it's all about recognition. I don't care about education, fascination, or ambition. I want to be recognized as a leader, a successful, a business, whatever it is. Okay. So then comes the next decade. Fascination goes, education goes, ambition goes, recognition. Then comes what? When you hit 40s? Confusion. So you start questioning everything you thought was the most important thing.
Yeah.
The brand I used to wear, the fight I used to have people to win the battles, to put somebody down. do stupid things which you feel stupid about. And every time there is a confusion, the answer is one of the best philosophical book, Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, light, camera, action are your 3 yogas, what they call in that. It actually helps you to find that. So when you hit 40s, you are confused. And when you are confused, a person who is really elevated, not everybody gets into philosophy. Philosophy to me is basically stepping out to the next level. So I'm very happy that you have actually got into that. Because you get deep. I always believe when people are not spiritually inclined or philosophical, I find it a bit disconnect. And I'm so happy that you are moving in the right track. But having said that, Vipin, I don't know whether it has come across to people. I know you did one podcast sitting on the other side, but my goal is to do a podcast with you one day, is because your journey to me is really fascination. Okay. I know Bombay. I know where you come from. I know you shared. It is an incredible journey of somebody going from there to coming here. And despite where the journey you had for you to go to the next level, I have a lot of respect and regard for you.
Thanks.
And one day, hopefully, I'll sit this side to have a conversation with you.
Appreciate it. I mean, on the philosophical side, right? So, I have been very inquisitive. I've always been inquisitive about it. And as I mentioned, I was not a very good engineering student. So, I would spend a lot of time reading anything apart from engineering. And hence, it was very confusing in my 20s, right? I would wonder about existence, right? I mean, why do we exist in the first place? And what is the end goal and more? And then I realized that, hey, listen, I'm going in the dark hole right now in my early 20s. Let me park this. And I don't know, for some reason, last 3 years, it just awakened again the curiosity. And I started on that journey again. I started reading Aristotle. I read Jainism in detail. I read Buddhism in detail, Bhagavad Gita, of course. Taoism, I started reading. I started listening to the podcast. And it just that it gives you different perspective every time you get into that rabbit hole of one philosophy. And you start believing that for a while, and then you go on to the next one. And then you start picking up bits and pieces from here and there. And I personally feel, and I just cover me up on this one, I personally feel is that gradually I feel that I'll come up with my own philosophy. It's for me. It's only for me. It's not to preach to anyone. But it's like best of pieces taken from everywhere, clubbed in together, and that becomes your own personal philosophy. Does it work like this?
Absolutely, yes. Okay. A person, the reason why you are able to do that is because you have an open mind. And a closed mind is very difficult to become philosophical and spiritual. You have to have an open mind to really understand different viewpoints and take the best, have an argument from that, and build your own philosophy. And if you are unable to build your own philosophy, that means the whole evolution has actually failed. So you are on the right track. And I don't see any reason why, you may kind of brush it off, but it's a fact that I don't see any reason why Bipin cannot have its own philosophical framework, which the world should know or can benefit. See, that will happen because you are starting at the age of 40, when you have that maturity. And from here onwards, it is going to be a different tangent at which that will grow.
Sure.
Because the way you look at things, and I've seen from my own journey, okay? Sometimes when I look back and the way I used to think, I laugh, but that is how the evolution is. You're on the right journey, and you should not hold back that it is mine, I don't know, but you should be bold enough to really experiment and discuss. Who knows? That is the philosophy the world was waiting for.
Sure. If anyone in our audience wants to start exploring the philosophy which has been given to us by so many wonderful philosophers, where should they start?
They start with questioning.
Questioning.
Yeah. If you don't have questions, there are no answers. You cannot seek answers. And that's why I said, you need to really move above the ordinary to be philosophical, because ordinary people feel they have all the answers. Okay, so that's why they are unable. They know everything.
But isn't that the easy way to live? Sometimes I get very envious of folks who feel that they have all the answers because then they're mentally very sorted.
You think so, no?
I don't know.
You think they are.
Yeah.
Okay, but the reality is, I know I am always open about my weaknesses. Okay, I know my strength. I know my weaknesses. I tell people openly about my weaknesses. Okay, so that means I don't have to pretend.
True. True.
Okay, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Makes life easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay, and so do you want an easy life where you're free, or you're always conscious that I said I know everything, now I need to keep pretending? So I rather have a life where, okay, this is who I am, this is, I don't know, these are my strengths and weaknesses, take me at my face values. So then I'm not pretending. So they may pretend to you, but the reality is all the time they're so conscious that they know everything, they have to
live it up.
I rather be like you, where I have a free mind. Okay, guys, take it or leave it the way. And the people who really love you will be with you. And those are the people you care about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you don't want the whole world to respect you. You want people whom you respect to respect you.
Yes. It's a very interesting thing, Osho philosophy, which I always say, it's a good connect here. And he says, what is the biggest enemy of creativity? Creativity is the essence of all innovations and
Correct.
success and all that. What is the biggest enemy of creativity? Philosophical question.
Knowing it all?
Success.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
The day you are success, you stop experimenting.
The day you feel that you've figured out a way to success,
You stop experimenting.
because you just want to keep repeating the same pattern.
Same way. Okay, that's why McDonald's doesn't go beyond their burgers. Starbucks doesn't go beyond. Google doesn't go beyond. So I used to wonder why.
They figured out.
They figured out their job is not to be creative. Their job is to produce that success. They keep doing it. Why large companies cannot be entrepreneurial? Because they're not supposed to. Okay. So the way I look at it, this philosophical part is, the success is all about ego. I know it all, and success is pretty much same. So if success is an enemy of creativity, that knowing all is also an enemy of your own growth, because you stop growing. I rather be vulnerable, and I'll end up with my favorite, one of my favorite quotes, of which Steve Jobs says, "Stay foolish, stay hungry."
Awesome. On that note, Nitin, thank you so much for doing this, and wishing you loads of success with Silver Elephant and all your initiatives. This was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.